Welcome back to the Green Line Gazette. We're coming at you today with a later episode. The U.S. kicks off our round of 16 game with Belgium in just about 3 hours here. I'm coming back from a day of travel, so I apologize for the late pre-match breakdown. But remember, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Substack, if you want to listen, follow on Instagram at Green Line Gazette as well to keep up with what we're doing. But without further ado, let's get into it. Today, obviously we're going to be breaking down Belgium's lineups and tactics, and of course, Balogun, an unprecedented move is now been cleared to play by FIFA, and will play tonight. So we will definitely get into that very soon. But we're gonna just start with game and tactic stuff to get that out of the way before we talk about the whole Balogun situation, which is absolutely nuts. Again, we're playing Belgium, of course, in Seattle tonight at Lumen, or I guess Seattle Stadium is what they call it, which is absolutely awesome because that's where we played Australia, and that was the best atmosphere I think I've ever seen for a U.S. soccer game in recent memory, if I have to be honest. And like I said before for the Australian one, right, that stadium is designed, it's the home of the 12th man during the NFL season. It's designed to be ridiculously loud. So having our round of 16 game there, and no hate to SoFi, right? Great stadium too, but it's just the outdoors, just how loud it's going to be. It's going to be absolutely rocking tonight. Should be insane. Also, what is a little insane, what might surprise some people here, is that the U.S. are actually betting favorites against Belgium. This is the first time, the U.S. has been a betting favorite, and sports books will vary right now, but what I've found to advance is the U.S. is about minus 100, and then Belgium around plus 100 as it stands. Again, could vary, and that's to qualify, and not in 90 minutes or whatever, but point stands that we are betting favorites, and that's also just remarkable. I can't remember the last. I don't know if I've ever been alive, honestly, for an actual World Cup match where the U.S. have been favored over what a lot of people would say are a superior, European opponent or someone from the upper echelon, right, of the international footballing world, like a Belgium who's held in, very high regard, and somehow, some way, right, times do change, and now the U.S. are favored as we head into night, especially with Balogun coming back. But like I said, it's a new era. And we've played these guys 7 times in history. We've beat them once and lost to them 6 times. That one win was in 1930 in that third place finish. But like we say on the show all the time, that doesn't count, right? It was 1930. Like, who cares, honestly? And we've mentioned that so often because it's like every monumental, achievement this U.S. team has accomplished at this World Cup. It's always like, this is the first time they've done it, and they did it in 1930. It's like, okay, like nobody really cares about the 1930 stuff. But so, not the best track record against Belgium, but we are the betting favorites tonight. I really, really like our chances, especially with Balogun back. People are just, if people weren't fired up there now, they're just going to be even more fired up with, this whole Balogun thing has brought a lot of attention to the U.S. It's going to put like a chip on their shoulder because, as we'll get into it, Belgium's very upset about the Balogun stuff. So, we will see. Again, I know I said I really like our chances here, and we'll get into why in a second, that we're betting favorites. But we have to remember this Belgium team is still a very, very good team. Down 2-0 to Senegal in the 85th minute, and they come back to win it 3-2 and added extra time. Absolutely insane game. I would go watch those highlights. Like I said, Yuri Tielemans, Villa guy, won it with that very controversial pen that occurred, and I think it was like the 125th minute when they took it. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter because they play us tonight, and they advanced in a ridiculous comeback over Senegal, where they played absolutely horrible, I think, for the first 75 minutes of that game. And then they looked insane once, I guess, after the 76th minute, whatever it may be. They kind of showed the world that this is the Belgian team that we have thought they were. Like, this is the Jeremy Doku's and the, De Bruyne shows, he still got it. Lukaku still has it, right? Like, this is still a very good, talented, and driven Belgium team who definitely have a chip on their shoulder, right? We talk about it here all the time that, these guys are supposed to be the dark horses for the past 12 years, and they're kind of the butt of a lot of jokes, right, in the footballing community, just pertaining to being, very underwhelming with what they achieve. So they're going to be playing with the chip on their shoulder as well. And now they have all the confidence they need after that Senegal comeback, which again was just absolutely nuts. And we'll break down just, exactly how they broke open, Senegal so well. It's their formation and it's how they play. And it's very interesting, but it works so well. So Rudy Garcia, right? Of course, the Belgian manager, it shifts a little bit, but if I had to guess, you're going to get some variation of a 4-2-3-1 or maybe a modified 4-3-3 out of Belgium. Nothing too ridiculous. Everything goes through this midfield. This is a very, very good midfield. They have a very good counterattack with their wingers, and of course, propelled by that midfield. That defensive midfield is, again, two Villa guys, obviously, Amadou Onana and Yuri Tielemans, both absolute beasts. Again, I watched, all 38 Prem games of Villa, and every European, FA Cup, whatever. Like, I've seen these guys play, and they are very, very strong, especially defensively. Of course, you then have De Bruyne on top of them, with Doku on that left flank there. And what they're going to do and what they did to Senegal so well is they'll play with a very high defensive line. And you could see that against Senegal. Some of the goals they gave up were directly because of that. But they will play a very, very high defensive line. They're very patient. They will build through that middle. They will try. And what they did to Senegal so well is they waited. They would play in Onana or De Bruyne or Tielemans or whoever it may be. Because of, just how talented that midfield trio is, they command respect and they command, a man commitment from what was a Senegal, midfielder or defender. They suck in, your entire focus to that middle of the pitch, and then they immediately look to Doku to isolate for, one-on-one options on the wing. And it's very, very good. Even they had I'm trying to think of his name. They had Luca Bacchio and I can't pronounce his name. But it's like Salamakers, if that's even how you pronounce it. They play on the right wing, and it's the same thing. They will suck you into the middle, get you so committed, and then immediately kick it to the wing. And especially with Doku, who, this is really where he excels on the field. They just take you in one-on-one, and it can be very scary because Doku is probably one of the best, dribblers, in the world right now. He's incredibly efficient, not only for Belgium, but also you've seen it at City, right, all year, how he just attacks on the wing, how overly aggressive he is. And it can be pretty frightening, but that I can guarantee you that's what they're going to do. They're going to try and suck Adams and Pulley and, whoever it's in, and then they're immediately going to kick to Doku, who is going to start taking it at whoever, is stuck there on the outside, whether it's one of those three center backs or if it's Jedi or Dest. But you will expect that one-on-one. But besides that, right, they're obviously just very technically gifted. They're a very talented team. They don't work together too well sometimes, right? You saw that struggle during the group stage, especially with that tie to Egypt. Again, no hate to Egypt. They just beat Australia, of course. But very, very, very gifted team. And this is probably going to be the toughest challenge of the tournament so far for the U.S. Obviously that just makes sense, right? The deeper you go, the harder it'll, your competition will be. But, this Belgium team is still good for the U.S., right? If you're the U.S., this is where you really got to prove yourself to the world because, of course, we talked about on past episodes how people will move the goalposts for the U.S. no matter what they do to discredit us. You had people saying we were going to lose to Bosnia. Bosnia's going to send us home. Of course, we send them home. We beat Bosnia. And then people just start saying, well, it's not a real European team. Now wait for Belgium, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure, knock on wood, if we can beat Belgium tonight, then, you'll find more excuses on why now all of a sudden after the game, Belgium's not a real European team. But this is a test, right? This is now, this is a statement win. If you want to show the world you're serious about soccer, if you're serious about football, you go take down what is, what I would say Belgium's regarded as a European giant, right? I get they lack the silverware, but they're always held in a very high regard. They have a very talented lineup. They've made deep runs in the World Cup before. We've seen that, right? So if you're the U.S., this is where you shine. This is where you show the world, who you are. But we can get to the good stuff now with Balogun. Absolutely nuts. So for anybody who doesn't know, right, Balogun picked up that red card in the Bosnia game, which was just a total malpractice, misuse of VAR. Accidentally stepped on the guy's ankle. Wasn't even looking at him. There was no original, not even a yellow card originally given. The ref goes to VAR. He uses slow motion and single picture frames, which you're not supposed to do, by the way. So just, again, complete misuse of VAR. Automatically upgrades the foul to a red card, directly skipping a yellow. Absolutely outrageous stuff. And, of course, if you get a red card, normally you are suspended for your next game. So, of course, that would be this Belgium game tonight. And in the Prem, you can get a red card, and then literally 4 situations like this, you can get a red card in the Prem or in La Liga, and then you can go and appeal it with PMGOL or whatever governing body there is, and they can take another look and say, okay, we can't do anything about the red card in the game, but because it's already over, right? But you don't have to serve your 1 game suspension, and you can play your next game. That does not normally exist in the World Cup. And FIFA officials told journalists from The Guardian after the game that this appeal process was not possible, does not happen in the World Cup. And then yesterday, I opened a New York Times article, or it was a tweet from Dave Portnoy, and he says, my sources tell me Balogun will be playing tomorrow. I'm like, all right, I hate this guy, not funny, whatever. And I opened the New York Times, and 30 minutes later, there it is. Special process. Balogun's red card, his suspension has been appealed. He will play tomorrow night. Absolutely nuts. And so to break it down, I still don't really understand it that well. But let's see. It seems like, I don't know if it's a loophole is the best way to explain this, but of course, right, you get the red card, you get that 1 match suspension, but FIFA just completely does themselves over here with a loophole in its own legal code, Article 27, and it reads of Chapter 4, Article 27 of the FIFA Disciplinary Code. It says this clause allows its judicial bodies to fully or partially suspend the implementation of a disciplinary measure and place a person on probation, which essentially means, when they mean probation, they mean, so in Balogun's case, he wasn't supposed to play this game. He gets put on, they appeal it, he gets put on probation for a year. If he commits another serious offense, like a really egregious, like a real red card, he then serves his it would be a 2-match ban immediately. And whatever his 2 next games for the US or for FIFA competition, he would not be able to play. But because he is on probation, he now does not have that 1 game suspension for this Belgium game tonight, and he is allowed to play, which is absolutely insane. Never done before in World Cup history. It said, I was reading reports, it's everywhere. I mean, you can go look for yourself on New York Times, Athletic, whatever. It said Trump called Infantino, who's the FIFA president, like 3 times. Trump claims that he just asked them politely to reconsider the Balogun punishment and the appeal. The U.S. our federation hired lawyers to look into this. So absolutely just insane things going on with the president getting involved with FIFA. He called it a great injustice. again, our lawyers were aggressively pressuring FIFA. We have reports of that. Um, they were threatening an immediate appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So just absolutely nuts. And of course, this sends shockwaves throughout the soccer or the footballing world. UEFA issues a really angry response, of course, because Belgium is part of UEFA, which is just the European soccer governing body. They, absolutely lose it. They say it's undermining the integrity of the game. They're crossing a red line. Belgium today, their federation fired an emergency appeal to go back on the decision. FIFA promptly dismissed that. So there was a tweet that was like, it was a Garcia interview, their manager, and he said he thought it was April Fool's Day. So it seems like FIFA's sticking to it, but just absolutely unprecedented for the World Cup. The closest thing that you can remember, and which is why it's pretty hypocritical for UEFA to get upset here, is if you'll remember in 2025, Ronaldo elbowed that Irish defender in the head and got a 3-match ban because he got a red card and it was like intent to harm. So he gets a 3-match ban from FIFA competitions, which would mean I think it was going to be the first 2 group stage games of this World Cup. He was going to have to sit out because I think he would have played in one friendly, which would count as a match ban, and then the next 2 would be those group stage games. Portugal, of course, a UEFA footballing nation, appeals that, and they do the same thing they did for Balogun, where they put Ronaldo on probation. So he still has this 1-year probationary period where, again, if he gets another red card, he'll have to serve it. But they bypassed his suspension and they let him play in the 2 group stage games. So it's absolutely ridiculous that UEFA is now, trying to take the moral high ground and say it's compromising the integrity of the game when Ronaldo was allowed to do essentially exactly this. And it was honestly worse because Ronaldo aggressively elbowed the dude in the head. So it's very comparable. It's almost the exact same situation. And so, of course, UEFA, not to mention the millions of scandals UEFA's been involved in, right? You could make a list of like probably 20 in recent memory that involve UEFA, not playing by the rules. So absolute joke that they're upset about this when they got this for Ronaldo. But again, very insane. And you can talk about the precedent this sets, which I'm a little worried about, especially in sports. And, this is really similar to like the Brennan Sorsby or the Trinidad Chambliss, like the NCAA, like eligibility stuff where if you can just, play college football for 7 years, then just go find an injunction from a judge that went to your school, and all of a sudden you can bypass the NCAA. It kind of reminds me of this because now, what stops every team from, who gets a major red card that might be a little unjust or, might be, people were upset about that England red card against Mexico last night. I thought it was red, but, I guess you can argue he got the ball, whatever, not intentional, like the Balogun stuff. So now what does this tell every federation, that if something doesn't go your way, you just have your president or you just get lawyers to actively pester FIFA and basically pressure them into a decision that's favorable for you and lifting that match ban. Don't get me wrong. I am so happy to have Balogun playing tonight, but it does worry me a little bit that it's this overriding this. I don't know. The president is set. I don't think it's good in my opinion because it leaves too much room for ambiguity. It's a really big decision. I think the easiest route they really should go is just do it like the Prem, where you can just do a proper appeal court. So, right, if this was the Prem and Balogun got that red card, you just go appeal it and they look into it. But this really informal way of doing things with, very corrupt notions, people aren't really too happy about it. And understandably, it looks pretty shady. So just a very interesting situation overall. But again, I'm happy about it. I don't really care selfishly for the night. Like, we really need him. He's our best finisher, like top goal scorer, already has 3 goals this tournament. So, It is what it is, but that's all I got for now. Hopefully, I'm here tomorrow in a good mood. We will see. 8 p.m. Biggest game for the U.S. men's national team and probably recent memory. This is absolutely huge if we can get it done. If we go on to win this, right, we're just getting another really big test. If I had to guess, we can actually, it's happening right now. The Spain-Portugal game, the winner plays it. Wow. Okay. I did not see this, but Mikel Mourinho in the 90+1 wins it for Spain 1-0. So if we can, handle business, knock on wood, Belgium tonight, we will end up playing the 2010 World Cup champions, the 2024 Euro winners, 2020 Euro winners, or not 2020, maybe 2020, but whatever. I digress. We will see you tomorrow, hopefully with good news, hopefully ready to break down this game in a positive light. But thank you for listening. Again, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Greenline Gazette to always keep up when I'm posting episodes and content and all that good stuff. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.